Hong Kong, Australia, everywhere. There is a single examination nationwide. There is a single way that you can be called doctor and you can continue to be doctor. So don't try to relearn the process time and again. Don't try to do something very much. What is important is we don't teach students what is the learning objective. We don't write. The teachers don't want to write. They want to examine, but don't want to write what is the learning objective. They don't want to write what is a must know, desirable to know, or nice to know. And that is the reason we are not able to pass this information to nursing, to paramedical, that what they can do. Whatever they can do, our need will come less. And therefore, what is important is we don't get Nobel laureates from medicine. We get very few patents, and the system is full of very, very strange thing. What we can do in terms of resources, don't go for money only. Your resources start from class 1. Teach them good hygiene. Your diarrhea problem, pneumonia problem will come down. This is the data from Clinton studies. This is the data from Gates studies, that pneumonia and all things can come down. Diarrhea is the biggest cause of stunting in India. That we need to teach right from class 1, what is the hand hygiene, what is the body hygiene. We need to teach anatomy and physiology and relevant biochemistry right from beginning in a graduated way, so by class 12 this system is over. So when they come to medical school, they are ready to understand what will be applied. They can be taught comparative, say, biology for training purpose. University is a training ground. This time should not be spent in training what they could have learned earlier, like English, like communication skills. And we are failing time and again that blueprinting is not proper. We are not very clear that why residents are fighting every day. You don't need resources for that. You don't need funding. You need to implement by educating what is communication skill, what is non-verbal skill, what is interpersonal skill, what is professionalism. Unless until we learn these things gradually, and we not only teach, we should examine for each one of them. And they should have a clearly demarcated percentage as to how much will give them marks on them. They must become mandatory, that if your non-verbal skills are poor, if your communication skills are poor, you will not pass the exam, as is all over the West. Why we are relearning it? And therefore what is happening is, these various centers needs to have rethink, and probably a dynamic curriculum is required. I think what we need funding and resources to our mind and not to the system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ravikant. And I request Dr. C.V. Rao to give his opinion on the funding as well as manpower crunch.
I will give you later.
Good afternoon. Being the last speaker before the lunch, I try to be as brief as I can. As far as the funding is concerned, it has been pointed out all the central universities and all medical institutions run by the central government are being adequately funded. As for the state universities, other than the medical universities, are being funded by the state government and by the UGC grants. Unfortunately, the health universities is a very recent concept. The first health university developed in state of Andhra Pradesh by our late Chief Minister, Dr. N.T. Rama Rao in 1986. At that time, this was not thought of. But if you go into the history, the Srivastava committee has enunciated very clearly that there should be a health and education commission to fund the health universities, but that not has been materialized. There are no research funds specially for any medical college, except again in the central institutes. So this problem has to be addressed to the concerned state government, and also has been pointed out in the presentation that you have to go and represent to the central government to create a special wing, at least in the, if not a autonomous wing for the health universities, but a special wing in the UGC to grant funds for the health universities so that the research activities can take place. Unfortunately, most of the health universities doesn't have the control over the teaching faculty. There is another crunch which is bothering the health universities, because you create any type of curriculum, but the control is again by the Director of Medical Education. So they are not strictly following the health university. So health universities in reality have become a conduction of the examination bodies and awarding degrees. So this has to be very seriously addressed if you want to really develop a curriculum and to be effectively implemented. The health universities should play a role in faculty management also, along with the state government. Then only it will become a reality. Unfortunately, again, health universities are designed to raise their own funds and maintain, and most of the state governments are giving either meager funds or no funds. And as far as the manpower shortage is concerned, we all know that shortage of faculty is a reality. Not only the faculty, shortage of doctors is a reality in the country if you go by the WHO norms. Morning, one speaker has pointed out, are we creating numbers or producing numbers only to fulfill the WHO requirements, or we are creating the quality doctors to meet the health needs of the country? Has to be again addressed, and a format will be submitted to the central government to really look into the serious matter. In the meantime, what prevents us to develop a mid-cadre health providers, like in the US, the physician assistants or nurse practitioners, nurse practitioners. This is the thing which we can immediately attend, so that our rural people get benefit from trained personnel, if not from the doctors. And as far as the bond is concerned, now very recently, after the introduction of the NEET, many state governments have introduced the bond system for the super specialties, and now with that, number of seats remain vacant. So when the number of seats are vacant, though you have created nearly 6,000 postgraduate seats this year by the central government, the number of seats are vacant, because with the bond system, nobody wants to take up, because again, they have to work for so many years with a meager salary after spending, because with the completion of the super specialties, the person is reaching around 30 years. After 30 years, with a 30,000 or a 40,000 salary, is not opting to take the super specialty course and opting for the government. So this is there is a lot of competition from the private sector, where they are offering huge salaries for the super specialists. They don't want to continue the government service with the bond system. These are the realities. This has to be addressed. So then only we can solve some of these problems. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity.
I thank everybody in the maintaining the time. Though the discussion was not complete involving everybody, I thought involve the learned few more vice chancellors also. But I request Ravi Kumar to formulate, take the feedback, because you have all the email IDs, give their feedback and formulate a consensus in these three important topics. So we had 5 topics discussed under the governance and the regulation, and majority of them felt that in the first instance, in the participation of private institutions in the Medical Advisory Council or the new upcoming NMC, then board certification is very important. Personally, I express that it should be a uniform assessment, uniform training and skills, and it times together. I think that we all should have required a change. It should be a board. However, let the inputs be taken over. As far as the curriculum is concerned, everybody felt that we are all following the old system. when the world is moving on the basic, from the molecular biology to the comprehensive medical education, right from the basic sciences, we all should promote this change in the curriculum in the both undergraduate and postgraduate levels. As far as the manpower is concerned, at least our institute in Nizam's Medical Institute, we give on the prospectus that to go undergo the compulsory service for the 2 years, or else they have to pay the, initially it was 5 lakhs, now we increased to 50. But equally we have to compensate, because as rightly said, people are going to the private. But we give at least 1 lakh per month for those super specialty senior residents. They are sticking to our institute, and in fact, we have opened other branches also under the NIMS brand. So we are successful in that, and everybody should think of. But as said by honorable members, it's not possible to leave 40,000 by super specialty at the age of 35 years. So I sincerely thank Dr. Ravi Kumar for involving me in this very important, fruitful discussions, and thank you one and all.
Before we retire to lunch, which is on the other side, I want to apologize for one thing. We started late little bit, and the whole thing cascaded, and so that our first session becomes what we call attenuated, cut short. So that's why, and also I request the role of the chairman in the next 3 sessions is to keep time, because we are all vice chancellor, we are all colleagues. We can't say alarm bell, you can cut off you. So we requested all of you to come to the point rather than too much preamble. We are all well tuned to the preamble of things. So if in the session 2, 3, and 4, if the speaker can cut to the chase and come to the straight away to the 5 to 7 slides and 5 minutes or so, and then the lead panelist can also do 1 or 2, whoever we have, we can make 1, 2, 3 minutes. And so the panelists who are having on the stage, we ask them, make one comment from their perspective, which is different from what is being discussed. So that will make it a fruitful interaction. If they concur with whatever it's said, we don't want to belabor the point again or talk about your own experience, which will be useful, because in board certification, my input would have been very useful, because I'm probably among the only few of you who have been for 35 years in the US board certified and come here and seen this comparison. And I'm into US model, which is the universities will train you and give you the experience certificate and degrees, but to get your job, as against what you said, it's not an option, it's a mandatory. I can't practice surgery unless I'm an American board certified. You said it's optional. It is not optional. So I can be trained at Harvard Medical School to get my 5 years of residency after I get my MD in medical school for 4 years. But after finishing my 5 years of the residency, I will get only conditional, not full privileges, conditional privileges in a hospital until I get board certified. So that's called board eligible. So I will become board eligible. I will work under some other person, board certified person, who will be responsible for signing my things for legal purposes. And then I get board certified within the next year or so usually, and then I become individual practice. So board certification is mandatory, it is a national, and it does not give you practical short case, long case, but it takes you through the case-based learning in terms of how you pass the exam. There is a clinical part, there's a basic science part, you finish both. And then every 10 years I get MOC, maintenance of certification. So that is a system which works well. But some of it we touched on it. So I think if we'll take notes, we'll come back tomorrow for the consensus opinion. If we can concur that there has to be a melding of the two, but it has to be university-based training, and you can give the degree, but it has to be then a certification process across the board, or you can have a common exam as was suggested by somebody already. So that's where we can level the playing field in terms of we are producing good doctors who are competent and be ready to serve. So that is my one view, and going from next session onwards, what we will request the chairman, chairperson to keep time, and so that we can finish every question within that allocated time. I request the speakers to come to the point and not give too much preamble, and lead panelists can have 1 or 2 minutes, so that allowing time for the other panelists to opine. So you want to say one, please.
So on behalf of my other colleague, I express my satisfaction at least that they have invited me to sit on the stage. So that is a great honor for me. That's number one. Number two, coming from Bhubaneswar and to Tirupati to take part in such a wonderful, what I think or what I have hoped, that it must be an analytical session by which we can come to a conclusion. But what I found that it is totally a flop show. So just to call a dignitary from a Bhubaneswar and to come here and to be seated on the chair on the dais, I think that is the last thing one should expect. Thank you very much.
I think many of the colleagues who have talked here, they were all from government universities or recognized. But I am from a deemed university, and we are repeatedly battered by MCI. But the National Medical Council, I am having my own doubts from the frying pan to the fire, because even the representation is not adequate. And regarding the other things, board exams and the university exams, yes, university exams are good. The teacher continuously follows the student for 5 years, for 3 years and all, fine. But manpower crunch, one speaker had pointed out how many anatomists are there in this country, whether they can work in all the medical colleges. So if you look at that type of a thing, I think we have to have a balance of both the university degrees as well as the DNB degrees, because MCI has now just started allowing DNB candidates also as assistant professors and all. So I think that system also. Again, this funding and other things, again, we have got the selection of for postgraduate courses, super specialty courses, 15% all India quota and 85% state quota. State quota has got the bonding system in our state also. But what happens, so they hold back the certificate. But the 15% quota, they go to the court and they get a thing. Government cannot impose the conditions on this 15% quota, central government candidates. So this is a very piquant situation we are going through. I think we have to see, as a deemed university, I think I have the one and only privilege of having Dr. Chaparwal visited our this thing as a NAC chief inspector. He has seen our college, but we are trying to do our in curriculum modification, the nice to know, must know, desirable to know, nice to know, all those things we have implemented. We have got the vertical integration program, horizontal integration program from first year to this thing. But still, one side is MCI, other side UGC still refuses to give us the 12B status. With the result, we are not getting any grants from any this thing. Morning, madam was talking that Telangana government has proposed a grant of research grant of 8 crores or something. As a private institution, single man's money, my boss has contributed 5 crores per year as a research grant. But this is the problem we are facing. We are yet to get this UGC 12B status. They say you all belong to that 44 category and all, even after getting a 3.1 in the NAC grading. So this is a very piquant situation. I think how much we all can contribute, but ultimately the powers that decide all these things, they take a very different view. I am not very pessimistic, I am very optimistic, but I think we should have a reasonable balance on all these things. Thank you.
Now we close this session and we'll go for lunch.